Hello, and welcome to the Screen Stoop podcast. This is episode 2 of The Crowded Room. I'm MJ.
And I'm Shelby.
Okay, I was wrong. Johnny and other friend, I think his name is Mike, are back in episode 2. That prediction was a bust.
Yeah, and like him, Arianna, so Johnny, Arianna, and Mike are all together at the table. So it's not just two personalities at one time, it can be more.
Yep, okay, so wrong. So now that we have multiple personalities here, all of them at the same time, or however many he wants at the same time, which makes more sense, crowded. Two people in a room isn't very crowded. Having 3, 4, 5, 6 is more crowded. My new prediction is that when Danny wants to be a fun guy, kid, popular, he's around Johnny and Mike. When Danny wants to be protected, he interacts with his pseudo-father figure, Yitzhak. Arianna is the passionate, unhinged version of Danny, erratic, possibly a replacement for his dead twin.
I would agree, yeah.
But then another prediction that I had, what if Danny never even had a twin? What if his twin was like just another imaginary friend, and then he like killed him or killed that part of himself?
Ooh, like the good, like his twin that was make-believe is what kept him in check, and then he killed it, and now he's like unhinged himself?
Maybe. Another prediction. Amanda Seyfried doesn't suspect. She's sure that Danny has DID and does believe that he's a serial killer. Because she was kind of mum when the police officers or the detectives were egging her on, saying, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we had a serial killer? Wouldn't that be exciting? And she was just kind of, didn't really respond. So I think that maybe she does suspect, and that's why she's pushing so hard, that he is actually a serial killer.
So then the question is she trying to convict him or save his life? Because they still have the insanity plea. So if she proves that he has this disorder, he's insane.
You keep going back to an insanity plea. I don't think that's the purpose of this at all. I think the purpose is to catch a serial killer. I think that she's trying to figure out, where are you hiding bodies? Yeah,
true, but
like they're not in the conviction stage yet. They're trying to figure out where dead people are, who's doing it. And I just thought that it was kind of cool because you recently read a book about serial killers or for serial killers for a Netflix TV show called Manhunt. And I liked how the police or detectives are excited and eager to catch a serial killer. You said something to me when you were reading the book about how that started in the 70s. So I think that's why this is all tied to that time period.
Yeah. Yep. That's why I find this one so interesting.
So let's get into episode 2. Psychologist enters ghost house. She finds an empty but used kitchen, out of milk-A on the fridge, triggering my Pretty Little Liars trauma. And then on the mirror upstairs in Arianna's room is written a heart in lipstick with A plus J. I thought, is Arianna cheating on Danny with Johnny?
Maybe, but later on in the episode you learn about Jerome. So now I'm like, is it A plus J? Does that mean Arianna plus Johnny or Arianna plus Jerome? Yeah,
and then actually after I just said that out loud, I'm thinking, is Arianna actually romantically involved with Danny? Are they kind of just neutral, platonic?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. The psychiatrist, I always forget her name, but she says,
I don't know her name at all. Have they said her name? Like maybe once in the first episode? That's why I keep calling her whatever I think of.
Yeah, but she says something to the fact of, it sounds like Arianna was made to order as a best friend. Like she's perfect. And then Danny says, not quite perfect.
Yeah. She's not real.
Yeah, no, but
maybe he hasn't developed a DID that he has a romantic relationship with yet.
No.
You were speculating maybe Annabelle isn't real, but I think that she's definitely real. Not everybody in this whole show can be not real.
It's not that I was thinking Annabelle wasn't real. I was thinking that the
interactions that he had were imaginary.
Were fantasy. Like him having sex with her or whatever wasn't actually like happening. If anything, it was a rape. But in his mind, he saw it as her willing and enjoying
he absolutely had sex with her. It's just it was him and not the girl. But we're going too far. The psychologist is walking through the house. There's a handwritten note in Arianna's room. We paused it and stood really close to the television so that we could see. It says, Danny Boy, fish and chips, something High Street, noon, underlined an exclamation point.
Yep.
So he's supposed to be meeting someone, I'm figuring Arianna, for fish and chips.
Yeah, I'm
Lunch.
trying to remember who called him Danny Boy. I've never heard Arianna call him Danny Boy, but I don't think I've heard anyone else call him Danny Boy.
If it turns out that his twin calls him Danny Boy, if we in like at episode 3 see like his twins use the phrase Danny Boy, I'm gonna be like, yep, okay, it's just a manifestation of the twin.
I mean, the twin could have been real, and then he made a manifestation of it from the loss. Mm-hmm. So that could be a thing too. Yeah, it's interesting. I want to know who calls him Danny Boy now.
Yes, so watch out for that. Then there is blood spatter in the hallway. Dexter, what type of blood spatter was that? We discussed sliced cast off, a straight line with something sharp. I really don't know technical terms, but it looks like a slit. We're guessing that a victim stood against the wall with their back to the wall.
Yeah, it definitely looks like obviously we don't know anything, and the little forensics I took was in junior year of high school. But it does look like a cast off, and if it is, like we said, like a slice, the person is definitely left-handed, because no matter if the victim is facing the wall or facing away from the wall, it would have to be a left-handed cut to cause a cast off to the left side.
So now we're looking for a lefty.
Yes. Lefties.
There's a cute bench right where their blood is at the end of that hall under a really interesting looking window. This is a gorgeous home overall, but that's a really great spot. I would love to just read there, sit there, listen to birds under that window. Super cute.
I just want to point out that the whole time she's going through this house, she's hearing noises, and that's what's drawing her into these rooms. That's what brought her up to Arianna's room and Johnny's room and back downstairs. She kept hearing noises. And the whole time she's yelling, who's there? Who is it? And I just want to point out, if you really want to catch somebody, you would not be yelling, who is it? Who's there? Letting them know you're getting closer and closer to their position.
Well, why is the psychologist even doing this? That's what I had an issue with in the first place, was it's kind of like on CSI, when the CSIs are the ones that actually solve all these crimes. The CSI usually is like there with police and then they're back in a lab. Yeah. She, as a psychologist, should not be walking around a crime scene investigating. That's the detective's job.
Yeah, that's two issues with the scene. I have a third issue with this scene. We're getting to it, but it's coming up.
Oh, the next section?
Yeah.
So Karen Smith finds Danny's painting art book pristinely unburned. And we said shoddy police work.
Yes, absolutely. Because they arrested Danny from that house, right? And they said they found blood. If they found blood and assumed there was a murder, that whole house would have been a crime scene, and they should have thoroughly investigated every section of the house, especially the fireplace.
Do you think that there was that detailed of CSIs back in the 70s, though? Are we...
Well, reading in... there was a little slip. It's called Mindhunter, not Manhunter.
Oh.
The book and the show.
Don't let me...
It took me a second to realize that you said it. So, they did mention, and Mindhunter is a book written by the FBI agent who coined the term serial killer and started the whole profiling case. He did say that shoddy police work was one of the main reasons why serial killers got away. It has nothing to do with their intelligence, although some of them are smart. A lot of it was just luck because of shoddy police work. So this could have very possibly happened.
Well, not only is it shoddy police work, it's shoddy, what would you call it? Direction, filmmakers, writing, because there's not a melt or single burn, no singeing or fading on some of these pages. That is incredibly lucky for our protagonist.
Yeah, just the outer cover on both the front and back are like singed on the corners, like someone had lit the corners on fire, and that's it.
She opens up the book and it's like he just painted them.
Yeah.
They're perfect.
Yeah.
Hang them on a wall.
It's crazy, so...
Next scene we have is stepdad and mom confront Danny outside, tell him to come home. Danny is submissive in stature, and Marlon controls the situation until Yahtzee steps in. More clues that he is a dissociation. As Candy steps forward, Yahtzee creepily slinks back through the front door. It was yucky.
Yeah.
Almost like she was pushing him away, like the mom as she approached Danny from the front. Yahtzee was going backwards, pushing him out of Danny's mind. Neither the mom or stepdad say who is this? Who are you? Big old man, what are you doing with my son? To Yitzhak, they only address Danny even when the big scary man is like in Marlon's face. He is not there.
Yeah, and to further your point of him being the protector persona of Danny, when you first notice him, he's having an interaction with his stepfather across the street is when he first ever sees Yahtzee, right?
Yeah.
And then you meet him with his friends.
Yeah.
And that is really the only time.
Sorry, I'm totally interrupting you. You're saying like he was in kind of a scary situation, and so the character was like being created when he drove up in episode 1, and then it kind of grew. The character grew when he first met him.
Yeah, they started talking. Him, Johnny, and Mike were talking about selling weed, and it was kind of a scary situation. And they meet Yitzhak, and then you meet Yitzhak for the third time when he's getting jumped by all those guys.
Yeah,
and now you meet him again for the fourth time as his stepfather's knocking and banging on the door, demanding he comes out.
Yeah,
so. It's very obvious, like you said, that is the protective persona. I just want to point out that those are very key parts that kind of prove your point there.
I also think, this is why I said pseudo-father, because there's that moment in episode 1 where Yitzhak comes down the stairs and he says, like, here's a passport, here's money, go find your father. I think that Danny's maybe birth father is from a different country, and that's why he created this. They keep commenting, that's a very odd name, that's a very foreign person. I think that he knows his dad is foreign, and so he's created this foreign man here to protect him.
Oh, good catch. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Smart.
Danny goes inside and Ari makes him a BLT. Coincidence? No, you're really smart, and you said, hey, that's the exact same sandwich that his mommy made with love. He tears up because of kindness and nostalgia. So this is kind of where I thought, oh, he is imagining Ari as like this feminine insert and maybe love. And so I was thinking at first, before we saw the rest of the episode, that Yitzhak was the dad and then Ari was his mom. And they were kind of like those type of figures in his life. But now, obviously, Arianna's like a totally dark person, but just in that moment, it kind of felt maternal.
Yeah, it was. I like the way they did it with this episode. They kind of, Yitzhak was very obvious in his persona, but Ari, they made you kind of think about it because they started off motherly and loving, and now she's like this, like emotionally damaged, unhinged person, and she kind of shifted. So it was kind of hard to tell at first where she was going to sit in his persona.
Was that a mistake or was that intentional?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell.
When Ari comes home drunk the first time, Danny wakes up, which is kind of what I thought was symbolizing, like, he wakes up and she's coming home. Like, Danny's coming forward in consciousness and Ari is kind of leaving consciousness because they kind of seem to be ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
When he is sitting on his bed and she is in her room, sitting on her bed, Danny scratches his leg and she scratches her leg at the exact same time, but they're both in different rooms. So now they're just being obvious.
But I just realized he scratches his left leg with his left hand. And she does the same. So maybe he is left-handed.
Yeah, so he's the murderer.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
Yeah.
Good job.
We're
Crime
done.
team.
I just want to point out, too, that my first thought was, wow, this guy gets no sleep at all.
Yeah. Well, his blank spots must be
his subconscious sleeping or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that it would explain why his face is always sunken and he looks tired.
Well,
and
okay,
he's
think
always
about
pale.
Split. Like, that guy does never sleep either.
Yeah. It's a great movie.
So this is why my prediction about the psychologist changed. Her dialogue in the first half of episode 2 is much more geared toward identifying these characters or imaginary offshoots of Danny's personality. In the first episode, it seemed more inquisitive, treating them like real people, like they might be real suspects. And her verbiage has shifted toward they're figments of your subconscious.
Yeah, she started asking more about his feelings and stuff. So I wonder if it was like she originally thought that they were suspects, and now she's kind of understood, like you said, that she knows there's something mentally wrong with them, and now she's trying to get to the underlying factor of that instead.
Yeah, and because we've seen time passing, this is over days. Now she's been to that little house. She's seen his booklet. So now she's just kind of forming a more clear picture of what this situation is, and she's changed her questioning.
Yeah, I just want to point out too that I like the way they do this, because a lot of TV shows will add extra time to the show to show you that time is passing. They'll add a cut in there and say the date and the time and stuff. The way they do it here is nice, because it's just like a cut to present day, and she's in different clothes or different makeup, like you said in the last episode. And so I just find that refreshing. Not very many shows do that, and it's not so on the nose, but it's enough to let you know, like, hey, this isn't in a matter of 1 or 2 days. This is like a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, so if you're not stupid or you are paying attention, then you're going to get it.
Yeah, which I wasn't, so thanks.
So Danny goes to the grocery store, and Annabelle is back. The only thing of substance that I found with this scene is that she said she got scared, in quotes, that Danny, is different, exciting, and made her anxious. So I was kind of thinking, all right, maybe more happened during that swing interaction from episode 1 than we were led to believe.
Also, you get your second clue of timeline here. So present day, psychiatrist asks how long he lived in the ghost house. He says 3 years. Then you go to the flashback of them in the supermarket, and he asked Annabelle how is college, showing you that everyone in high school is done. Like,
maybe it's like a year later.
Yeah, it's a year or 2 later, because you don't really know what grade he's in, I don't think.
He was a junior in high school.
Oh, so it's
so 2 years later.
Yeah. So now you know that she's in college. You find out that he dropped out, because she says, whatever happened to you? Everyone figured you dropped out. He says something like that.
So really, you didn't see him. You guys live in the same town. You didn't see him for 2 years. Because you spent your entire senior year here, girl.
Yeah. So it must, that kind of shows you that maybe Danny, during the day, while he's awake, he stays inside because he doesn't really have any actual friends. And he goes out only at night as Ari.
If Ari goes out at night to go to clubs, what time of day is Danny selling drugs? Because don't you usually sell drugs at night?
Oh, yeah, because he does say that they afforded rent because Johnny sells a lot of weed.
Yeah, I like how he kind of whispered that, like it was really cocky. But aren't those going to conflict in where each person should be?
Maybe he sells the weed at night, and those just alternate between Ari and Johnny depending on what he needs at that moment. Like, oh crap, rent's coming up, and Johnny takes over and sells the weed and pays the rent as Yitzhak.
Yeah.
Because they said that Yitzhak paid the rent in cash.
You know what I just was picturing is like, because Johnny and Mike, I know that they're imaginary, but they didn't get evicted from high school. So I'm just picturing Tom Holland, like, because he thinks that he's Johnny, sneaking back, like crawling on his belly to school grounds and like hiding in a bush and selling weed to these kids still, because his other personality is still a teenager, like in high school. Or they keep showing that ice cream truck, right? And so maybe he like is in the ice cream truck, because why you guys keep having that? Maybe he like works in the ice cream truck and that's how he sells drugs.
No, maybe I didn't even notice it.
Maybe he like lives in the ice cream truck, or there's someone that is working with him in the ice cream truck. Maybe that's how he's like transporting bodies. I don't know. They keep showing that ice cream truck. They've done it over and over. I don't know how it was like in the street and then it was parked in the school's backyard. There's got to be something there, because it was weird. Too often was it in the shot.
Yeah, I don't know.
So Danny invites Annabelle back to the house. Those are not house rules. And then Johnny pops back. His other friend is Mike. I think that even though I was wrong that the friends didn't disappear when he met Yitzhak, I think the friends are going to stop serving him, because he's kind of leaving that high school popularity need to be the cool kid stuff behind.
Yeah.
So I think that he is going to eventually kill them off.
Oh, so they don't serve.
Yeah.
In Danny's own words.
Yeah. I wonder if that's going to come into play again.
Yeah, I wonder what he means when he said it doesn't serve.
From episode 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that we pointed out when he was being first interviewed by the detectives after getting arrested in episode 1. The quote was, it wouldn't serve.
Yeah.
So at the ghost house, the night of the party, the 3 friends are together. J and A have chemistry. They have a cute little back and forth when they're all rolling weed cigarettes. I don't know what they're called. There's a name.
Stogies?
No, isn't it?
A blunt?
Yeah.
I mean, stogies and blunts, they're kind of the same thing, I think.
I have no idea. Annabelle's here. She brought more people. The house is packed. I think that it's funny because it looks more organic when there's 3 other people sitting at the table with Danny. In reality, it's just Danny sitting there. So wouldn't you be like creeped out that it's just this one guy?
Yeah, maybe the fact that he was smoking when she entered kind of is like, oh, he's just high, so they just kind of like, it's whatever, because people laugh at themselves when they're high all the time and they do weird stuff. So, but yeah, if I walked in and saw some guy just sitting in a dark corner smoking, talking to himself, I'd be like, this is more than just weed.
Yeah. So at the house party, Danny and Annabelle go up to his bedroom, and she is singing a song by Meatloaf and Ellen Foley. It's so good. The way that this actress gets into the song is great.
Yeah, I liked how she was like jumping around and like bouncing her head up and stuff. It was definitely how I envisioned people listening to like 70s rock.
Yeah. And then Eden comes in here again. She must be someone important. I thought she was just going to be a random bully character, but she must be more significant.
I think maybe she's just like Annabelle's like grounded friend, because Annabelle's kind of like fun and partying, and Eden's like, you guys are annoying. Like, no, this guy is dangerous. I don't trust him.
I disagree. I think Annabelle is going to be wasted at some point. Not like wasted drugs, but like killed off. And Eden is actually going to be more important. It's kind of like a bait and switch.
Okay.
Things start getting hot and heavy between Danny and Annabelle, but it seems like he has some sort of performance anxiety issue. So then Ari walks in, and she is passionate. When she's here, now stuff actually gets steamy. Seems like Arianna knows how to treat the girl. Ari can get Annabelle hot, and Danny can't. So he just sits there kind of upset.
Yeah, I want to point out 2 things. One, when Ari tells Annabelle that she's pretty, Annabelle is making out with Danny, and she says thank you as if Danny had said it.
Yeah.
2, this is exactly what you had explained to me in episode 1 about Fight Club.
No, so I actually have even more to say. The drug scene, the Ari and Annabelle, and then the kitchen scene the morning after is so Fight Club, it's plagiarism. It's something that's actually happened. I mean, Bellatrix walks up behind Edward Norton, and I haven't seen the movie in years, but I'm pretty sure that like she's in a robe and she walks up behind him and hugs him from behind, and Annabelle does that exact same thing with Danny.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I feel like the woman in the robe kitchen scene after the night of sex is a very common movie trope, but the fact that it's identical from the night to that scene, I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but I'm guessing from your reaction, it probably is plagiarism.
I mean, and I'm not saying actually, I'm saying it facetiously. It's not actually plagiarism, but it criminally should be. Annabelle leaves, Ari comes back, and Danny is pouting on the porch. Ari asks if Danny had an issue. He says no. What a liar. They go out for a burger, and I said, watch out for what, Shelby?
If there was 2 meals or not.
And there is only 1 meal at the restaurant. 1 plate, 1 drink. It is totally predictable. They are the same person.
Yeah. But like you said in episode 1, I think this is an obvious thing. So this can't. If this ends up being the twist, it's going to ruin the whole show.
No, there has to be another twisty on top of it.
Yeah.
She is obviously passion, crimes. She's the killer. She's his repression. She won't talk about the past. She mentions childhood trauma. Danny also has childhood trauma. So I think that their entire backstory is just tied up together. After Arianna and Danny go see Rocky 2, a crack guy comes up to the duo and calls for Arianna. The man is obviously gay. His name is Benny. Speculate that Danny goes as Arianna on the streets, possibly a way to get more drugs, the other stuff that he alluded to selling. I think that he not only sells pot, but also probably deals in harder things. And just because Benny called the duo Arianna doesn't mean that he actually is going by Arianna. It just is kind of like a representation of that character that he portrays when he's walking the streets or selling drugs or doing any sort of nightlife activities.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Because even though in Fight Club, the Brad Pitt character is referenced as him, it's still, the people are talking to Edward Norton.
It's basically just what Danny's hearing,
Yeah.
not actually what they're saying.
Yeah. And it kind of just goes into when you are psychotic, or it's like with my anorexia. Like, I imagine people saying to me things to me when I'm anorexic that they didn't actually say, because I'm hearing something that's completely different. And then I attribute that to them out of my own like psychosis, because they might say something totally innocuous and I've now twisted it in my mind that they have insulted me and called me fat and now I need to go cut myself or starve or whatever. And so it's kind of the same thing. Like you were saying how he fantasizes with Annabelle. It's similar to that. We're seeing the world through his perception. So not everything that each character says to him or to the other personalities can be attributed as like word for word fact.
Yeah, and I'm sure if they do the iconic flashback at the end of the show where they show all these different scenes and it's actually just Danny, you'll get that as them just calling him Danny and stuff.
But I do picture Tom Holland like walking the streets all flamboyant and like his low cut shirt and some makeup on and like doing back alley stuff for a little bit of a high. As the Arianna actress is walking to the club and she enters the club, I just wrote down that she has a prominent, natural upper duck lip. Like her upper lip is the effect that girls used to try and force doing duck or pouty face selfies. And she like naturally has that. I don't think that that could be cosmetically done. I think it's just like really lucky genetics. That she has just like a really pouty upper lip.
Yeah, I just noticed that everybody knew her name, so she's like...
Oh, she's a regular at the club?
Yeah, she goes there all the time.
Yeah, that's more important to the plot than the actual
I didn't notice
appearance.
anything about it. I guess, appearance-wise, I did notice that she walks with a sense of, like, importance or, like...
she struts.
Yeah, she has, like, confidence that Danny obviously lacks.
No, all of the characters have a specific confident walk.
Yeah.
Johnny's like jumping around and the other guys all tall.
Yep.
Chatting with Carl. Jerome has come up in conversation. Is Jay on the mirror Jerome or is it Johnny? Jerome then kind of shows up behind Ari as she's dancing with a character of Grace, who's just a cokehead girl that she met at the bar. Ari leaves Grace for Jerome. Jerome enters the chat and enters Ari from behind, hinting again that sex must be performed from behind with this character. It's really man on man, bro on bro.
Yeah. It also, you see in Ari's face during the interaction that she's not happy, even though she had just at the bar told Jerome that she was away for 4 days and hiding because she was scared of what she was feeling. But then in the stall, you see like disgust or
she's
upset.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know what. Maybe it, because she describes like that she can't do emotions. Maybe she just doesn't like feeling. Maybe as soon as she starts feeling something, she wants to shut it down or sabotage it, which is kind of why after they're done having sex, she gets the urge to intentionally piss off Jerome by making out with Grace when she really was not interested in Grace whatsoever, except for to get a rise out of somebody. I think she's just a self-destructive character.
Yeah, I think that just adds to the unhinged personality that you had hinted to earlier.
Yeah. When Ari, well, actually, I didn't, the psychologist did.
Well, yeah.
But Ari kisses Grace, Jerome freaks out, wrecks Grace, like throws her.
Yeah.
And she lands, like her dress comes up and everything. They get kicked out of the club.
Yep, get thrown out onto the street.
I'm somewhat proud of this next part. At 42 minutes, Arianna turns to run away back toward the city in kind of a panic attack. It's a camera flashback shot from yesterday, episode 1, in Danny's thoughts at episode 1, 55:46, when the psychologist asks, "Where is Arianna?" The thoughts that are triggered come or appear to come from Danny, but it is actually Arianna. It's a POV of Arianna running toward the city, the exact same like flash of shots.
Yeah, so now the question is, because this is Danny telling the story to the therapist, because the therapist says, "Did she tell you all that?"
Mm-hmm.
So now the question is this his flashback because he was there, or is this his flashback because this is the story that Ari had told him?
I don't know, but I'm led to believe that because it's the exact same picture, that it's in his mind, it's in his memory. That's what's being portrayed here.
Yeah, I mean,
that their minds are one and the same.
Yeah, and obviously it's got to be him, right? Because this is a different personality.
And I think that he is going to keep getting, because he talks about these spaces in time or spaces in memory that he can't account for. I think that he's going to start consciously remembering these things, and that's how it's all going to get pieced together.
So I wonder if he's like completely unaware of the personalities, or if he's semi-aware, like he's aware of some of them, but not aware of all of them.
Well, he was dreaming, the first part of episode 2, dreaming about that kind of flooded construction house, and he was like sitting down in the water. And then at the end, you see that Ari is walking through that construction house. And so because that first thought was a dream, I think that the two kind of worlds or two personalities are colliding within Danny. So my idea of the purpose here is to decipher, is Danny consciously aware that he is another person and he is actually evil and he is a serial killer and he's doing all of these bad things? Or is he, like Edward Norton, completely ignorant and was unaware that all of this bad stuff is happening? The scene that follows from Ari's perspective is the same exact thing that happened in the beginning when Danny woke up and Ari was coming home from the night. She is in the same outfit. She drops her beer. She's crying. She sits on her bed. But this time, from Ari's perspective, the scene plays out differently, because when Ari gets home, she goes into Danny's room and he is sleeping on his bed. That didn't happen. She sat on her bed and he sat on his bed, like scratching their leg. But in this time, she goes into Danny's room and asks for help. So is he remembering things differently, or do each personality facet remember the events of the same factual timeline differently? He heard her slam the downstairs door and woke up the first part of episode 2. Yeah. And then she comes upstairs and he asks her if she is okay. She yells something rude at him and goes into her own room. He then sits on his bed, scratches his leg, and she sits on her bed and scratches her leg. This time, when she comes home, he doesn't wake up when she slams the door. He's still sleeping, and she walks into her room, pouts or cries, and then walks into his room and wakes him up. Those are two different things that happened the exact same moment in actual worldly time.
Yeah.
More importantly, does the therapist or psychologist track that these are two different retellings or recollections of the same event? And is that then why she turns the conversation toward accusing Ari, which causes Danny to freak out and kind of stand up yelling at the psychiatrist? The episode ends with Ari walking into a flooded, unconstructed building from the start of this episode, but she walks past floating dead bodies, and now I'm super excited. Let's start murdering people.
Yeah, I wonder if you didn't get a good look at the bodies, but so I'm wondering, is it his stepfather and his mom? Because
one of them was fat and had a beard.
Well, if he kept him captive for some time, because the psychiatrist asked him, why would your parents just let you live alone in this house? And he said, well, I was just right down the street.
Don't you think that they would have brought his parents in, or like tried to find them.
Maybe that's going to be the third episode.
I think that the stepdad's definitely alive because our prediction in episode 1 is that he was shooting at the stepdad.
True. Good point. I don't know.
So we're going to watch episode 3 today and then record that. Episode 4 does not come out until June 16th. So that's all that we can do for now. Any predictions going into episode 3?
Obviously, I think it's going to be more tailored to the bodies. I think we're going to get to see some kills in episode 3.
Yay.
So.
And Ari's definitely the killer because, like we said, we needed to identify someone with left hand. She's got it.
Yes. I think maybe one of the bodies will be Eden. I know that you think that it's the opposite, that you said Annabelle's going to die and then Eden's going to become a thing. I think Eden's going to die because Eden is always trying to keep...
No, Eden is a much more interesting character. It's like when you're in a horror movie, Shelby. Who's going to die first? The blonde. Who's going to die first? The one that everyone thinks is hot.
We'll see.
Who's going to stay? The one that is maybe Eden, because she's already kind of antagonistic toward Danny. Maybe Eden's going to be like the foil to Danny.
You got to remember, though, that this is also based off of true events. And...
Dramatized.
Yeah.
So they need to have some person fighting Danny. I think she's going to be the person to kind of go against him.
We'll see.